Hey guys, preparing here. That card is pretty good. I think it can. I'm joking. But g'day everyone. This is an episode of Core Concepts. I thought I'd just meme it out there for a second. But yeah, how are we all today? Of course, Core Concepts is a series. Yes, it is a series that I've been making. And it's where I explain my Overwatch philosophies, the way I think around the game, talking about particular topics, and we can all discuss it in the comment section, whether you know, or voice if you know me, whatever, I don't mind. But yes, so let's get straight onto it. This episode is going to be about Winston, the fabled monkey, the King Kong, the king in the game at the moment, as it seems to be. Winston is a very, very popular hero when it comes to esports competitive play, and has been seeing a rise in solo queue or competitive queue as well. Why is this? There are so many reasons as to why Winston is top dog at the moment. Now, Winston is a flexible hero. Now, when people think of Winston, they immediately think to put him in a dive comp. That is correct. That is correct most of the time. Now, the difference is, Winston is very flexible. His shield offers access through choke points, and it gives your team time. That's the key thing. It gives your team time, and it also allows your divers to get less punishment as they dive in, right? So just imagine this. They have a soldier, they have a Zenyatta on the high ground. You jump on them with Winston. Genji is right behind you. You use the shield to block the incoming damage that you're obviously in with the Genji, right? And it allows him to not use his deflect cooldown. It gives him an opportunity to use all of his damage without worrying too much, because the enemies and you are in a battle kiting within that Zarya, the barrier zone shield, right? So you have to keep that in mind. It is a very important cooldown. Now, why is it so flexible? As I mentioned previously, you can use it when you're going through chokes. Of course, using it through chokes all the time isn't advisable, since the cooldown is relatively long. But if you do have the time and they aren't necessarily that close to you, and they can't abuse the cooldown, it can be versatile in that sense, right? It's very good. The shield is very good against most meta heroes in this current meta, right? Did that make any sense? We'll just go with it. The current meta, right? We're thinking of dive composition. Now, think of it this way. The Koreans have evolved their own meta within this dive, right? Instead of picking Genji, they have resulted in using D.Va instead. Why is this? Because Winston is such a strong character. When you're playing Genji against Winston, you have to avoid him. You have to use your time on trying to traverse him. It's very difficult. You have to use your mobility cooldowns to get out. This is why D.Va in Korea has received a surge. This is why Winston is so powerful. Sorry, the video cut out there, but I'm back. I just received some KFC, so that's quite excusable, let's be honest here. But yes, I'm discussing about why Winston is so powerful, right? We mentioned the fact he has quite a good matchup against Genji. Now, let's look at a common theme with the dive composition meta. Notice how majority of the heroes in this dive meta aren't reliant on their ultimates. Think about it. You're looking at Zenyatta, who is obviously very reliant on the Discord. It enhances the dive targets and makes them a lot more vulnerable once you get onto them. There we go. A hero who is not reliant on his ultimate, even though Transcendence is very powerful and it's good to counter dive, right? Counter dive. Now, think of Winston himself. Primal Rage isn't exactly recognized as a very powerful ultimate. It's map situated. It can be more powerful than, let's say, Ilios or something like that, or Li Zhang second on the bridge. But for the most part, his standard kit is so strong, and he isn't reliant on his ult. Now, you can say the same about Ana or Lucio. Same thing. They're not ultimate reliant. Lucio speed boost obviously enhances and accelerates the dive. Look at Ana, sleep, nade. It just self-explanatory, does very powerful default cooldowns. And when we're talking about the rest of the dive composition, right, we sometimes have variations. Sorry, with Tracer as well. Um, just overall a lot of mobility. You don't necessarily rely on the pulse bomb. You get it up very quickly, and it's sort of a chuck away. Or every time you get it, you just want to find a pick, and then you want to run away with it. The dive composition is full of value. You get instantaneous value, and you can get in there, get out very quickly. The rotations and the punishments and the staggers are very awesome. Once you get into that advantageous position, right? And the factor is, a lot of maps in Overwatch, or there are maps in Overwatch that are very high ground centric, and having these mobility cooldowns are very important. This is why Winston sometimes gets the better of Reinhardt in that sense, because there are particular maps where Reinhardt can only hold one sort of sector, right? While Winston, I think the time where Winston wasn't even in the meta, right? And remember, on Numbani, Winston was always run, so you could counter dive the opposition that was coming across platforms. So you'd have a D.Va and Winston, and they'd both dive, on the opposite platform, or depending on where they are, you could use your mobility cooldowns to get to there in a very fast instant, right? Instead of Reinhardt having to do a slow push rotate and giving them perhaps ticks, Winston is realized as a faster alternative, right? But Winston, he is the king at the moment, right? Now, there are several Reddit threads here, and let me just reference one that Switch gave to me, actually. This is from the Apex coaches, right? The runaway coach, then the Korean caster for Apex, Yong Bong Tang, I'm not sure, but has stated that Winston is the most important for finishing off DPS enemies, which increases his necessity of also separating enemies. And this is even more effective right now because the use of more DPS heroes instead of tanks in the current meta. So obviously Winston against tanks, he's like a tickle monster. He's not going to do anything against a tank because of his low base damage with his Tesla cannon, right? I mean, Primal Rage can come into consideration when you're thinking about pushing them off terrain instantly and getting all that health bar, but we're just talking about standard scenarios. We're not going to go on the little niches here. Now, there are a few situations as well where we have people who aren't even notorious Winston players, but they're being put on a Winston because of his power levels, right? So, runaway coach Nomi, I'm just reading this off here, is purposely assigning Haxel on Winston instead of Genji because Haxel is currently known as the best in the role, right? And when we think of that particular player, he is an absolutely awesome Genji, right? But they're putting him on Winston because they believe that it outweighs the fact that he may be such an awesome Genji, but the Winston at the moment is that powerful, and he is the best Winston player on the team, apparently, and it just outweighs the skill level on that in this scenario, right? So that just proves how, even when you have such a powerful tool in a player like Axel, you can't ignore the plain strength of a particular hero, especially when it comes to Overwatch. We don't have a very stacked roster at the moment. Let's 25 or 26 heroes we have right now, and we haven't really had too many metas in which there has been a lot of flexibility. There's sort of been metas in which you could go out to this, go out to that, but there's always been a main central team composition that has bettered them all, that has a better round strength and has better versatility. And right now that team comp includes Winston. Winston is a really outstanding carry of a tank as well. Now, he can be a role player and he can be a carry. I mean, you can see people say that Winston's kit is so easy. Theoretically, it is easy, but you can see the difference between a good Winston player and a bad Winston player very decisively, right? If you look at the best Winston player in the world, Miro, the way he uses his jumps in order to cycle his cooldowns, and he wavers in the air and seemingly looks impossible to hit, right? It's amazing how he does that, and the cooldown usage on the bubble, making sure that they don't have an effective area of zone to try and get through and look past the bubble and and he uses it to zone off their healers as well. It's just amazing. There's so much versatility, and there's a lot of strategy that can come with Winston right now, and it's certainly very interesting. And I might make another video based on this as well, maybe talking with a Winston player, because I really don't play Winston that much. I just watch a lot of Winston, right? So I might make another video, follow up, to see why Winston is so powerful. I'll be asking some questions myself. If you guys would like to see that, please in the comment below. But yeah, that's just all basic stuff. I'm not really too much advanced of a Winston player. I couldn't go into, you know, specific calculations and mathematics as to what situation would be more beneficial, but just sort of generalized stuff, maybe for people who maybe perhaps don't understand the game as well, or whatever suits to your card. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good one. See ya.